What I'd like to do is give you some comments and perspective on what I think is a really exciting topic, which is communications without borders. So I'd like to talk to you about what it means for me personally, what I think the challenge is for us as an industry around the concept of borders, and give you perhaps a flavour from an international perspective, particularly from our firm's perspective at Edelman. What are some of the challenges that we see clients are facing around this concept of globalisation? I think it's fair to say that the world is not only changing, it has fundamentally changed. And we have a lot of conversations with our clients in markets all around the world around what is the new world and what are some of the new challenges that companies and brands face in their communications. And I think one of the real triggers or concepts that resonates a lot is the fact that physical borders exist, but the reality is they're no longer relevant. And they're no longer relevant primarily because of the internet. And I pulled out some really interesting statistics to sort of illustrate how the world has embraced the internet over the last 5 years. So in the Oceania region, including Australia, we've gone from 19 to 24 million people, which is a 27% increase of people now having access to the internet. And obviously the NBN is going to increase that even more. But the Middle East has gone from 20 to 77 million, which is a 294% increase over 5 years. So I think that gives you a sense of the fact that the internet, the explosion of the internet, means that there are no borders now in terms of the flow of communications around the globe. And as communications professionals, we know that communications moves quickly and people are sharing information constantly around the globe. And I think as a result of the internet, we're also seeing that societies are behaving differently. And we've seen the uprising of demonstrations against businesses, against governments occurring all over the world. And those demonstrations get airplay globally and almost instantaneously. We've seen a lot of the uprising in the Middle East. We're talking about it as it's happening. It's real-time communications without borders. And I think that the other interesting trend around this concept of communication without borders is that, while wars and unrests continue to unfold around the global stage, many of those stories are actually being told through the lens of citizen journalists. So they're real people telling real stories about the world around us. And I think that's a great example of what communication without borders means. I think that there's now, as a result of all of this, a greater responsibility for business to be behaving more authentically and to be communicating more transparently than ever before. I think you've got changes in trade and tariff improvements globally. It meant that most organisations now want to globalise. Whether you're a multinational corporation or whether you're a small business in one market, you want to be able to be doing business, and you can be doing business globally. You only need to look at e-commerce platforms and how that's created a whole new economy. So communication, without borders. But I think, within all of this change, public relations actually needs to be more local than ever before. And I think that that's a real challenge for us as communications professionals to understand how do we operate in this new world without borders, whilst at the same time making sure that our stories are perhaps more local than ever, that they resonate locally, that people see relevance and have real empathy with the messages that companies, governments, not-for-profits and brands are trying to communicate. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for public relations because unlike mass communications, we can help an organisation have a consistent message across borders, whilst at the same time changing and adapting that message based on feedback that we're receiving from people in local markets to actually create content and have co-created content with people from different markets, to give people a voice, to give people the opportunity to actually have a conversation with a company, a government, a not-for-profit organisation, and have their say in how that story unfolds. So communication without borders, what does this mean? I think it means that, yes, the world has changed. It has fundamentally changed forever. I think it's absolutely put a real onus back on us as public relations and communications professionals to think about the challenges that that's created, not just for our clients and the organisations that we work for, but for ourselves as communicators. I think ethically we now have a far greater responsibility to understand the world in which we operate and to help educate our clients and the companies that we work for around the new standard of communications.